Why are so many Swiss vineyards planted on dangerous terrain? How do the three sons of Lavaux shape the ripeness and character of Chasselas? And which unexpected historical figure owns the world's smallest vineyard in Switzerland? In today's episode, you'll hear the stories and tips that answer those questions in part 2 of our chat with Simon Hardy, author of the terrific new book, The Smart Traveler's Wine Guide to Switzerland. If you didn't listen to part 1 from last week yet, that's okay. Stick with this one, and then when you finish, go back and give that one a listen. By the end of our conversation, you'll also discover what makes Switzerland's vertiginous vineyards some of the most dangerous in the world to farm, how growers get grapes from inaccessible cliffside plots during the harvest, what makes the completer grapes so difficult to grow yet so extraordinary in the glass, what triggered Switzerland's quality revolution in the 1980s and how opening trade with the European Union transformed the country's wine standards, how the Three Lakes region popularized the term eye of the partridge for pale rosé and why it slipped beyond their control, what the Roostergraben reveals about Switzerland's linguistic and cultural divide, the must-visit areas for a first trip through Switzerland's wine regions, how raclette and chocolate highlights Switzerland's expression of terroir, and why export growth and wine tourism may shape the future of Switzerland's alpine wine identity. Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. Welcome to episode 367. So, what's new in the wine world this week? The LCBO just dropped their year-end numbers for 2025, and the story they tell is fascinating. De-alcoholized wines have exploded by 126%, according to data covering November 2024 through to November 2025, with non-alcohol sparkling wines leading the charge. Meanwhile, Ontario's VQA wines surged 56% overall, red VQA up 66%, whites 54%, as Canadians leaned in hard to local during the trade war fallout. Early holiday shopping is pushing people toward the trend of treat but not trophy bottles in Ontario and BC. Mid-shelf sparkling, Cremant, and grower-style bubbles in the $20 to $35 range are moving faster than still wines as shoppers look for something special. If you want to learn more about Ontario wine, Brock University has opened a Niagara Wine History exhibit featuring the mid-1960s Canadian Wine Institute pamphlets that now look charmingly retro. A Nielsen study finds that 57% of on-premise wine drinkers, meaning those in restaurants, have chosen Canadian labels in bars and restaurants this year, and just over half of them say they are drinking more Canadian wine than before, led by Ontario and BC, with Nova Scotia and Quebec also leaning into local. So expect more Niagara Cab Franc by the glass with steak in Ontario, Okanagan Syrah with short ribs in BC, and crisp Nova Scotia traditional Method Fizz poured as a house aperitif in the Maritimes. There's also a new study this week showing cannabis users are now drinking 19% less alcohol, which may explain why snack sales are up while corks stay in bottles. Starting December 14th, the LCBO is removing HST from beer, cider, wine up to 22.9% alcohol by volume, and some ready-to-drink coolers and non-alcoholic beverages for 2 months, a win for anyone stocking their cellar for the holidays. The U.S. Wine Market Council's 2025 benchmark study announced December 4th that millennials have officially dethroned baby boomers as America's largest wine-drinking cohort, claiming 31% of wine consumers compared to boomers' 26%, a dramatic drop from their 32% share 2 years ago. Gen Z also surged from 9 to 14%, despite only half being legal drinking age currently. But here's the interesting part. These younger drinkers want completely different things. While boomers love big, bold Cabernet Sauvignon, millennials and Gen Z gravitate toward Merlot, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Muscat, and Rosé, with both generations far more likely to pop bubbles than their parents. The study also revealed a shift in motivation. Over 40% now say that wine makes occasions feel special, overtaking relaxing at home as the primary reason to drink wine, which means that weekday dinner occasions have declined significantly. Studies say that boomers' impact on sales declines should peak between 2029 and 2031, presumably as they die off. 24% of Gen Z and 21% of millennials changed their drinking habits in the past year to improve mood, sleep, or energy. It's less about medical advice and more about wellness, with this younger generation focused on how alcohol makes them feel rather than whether or not their doctor approves. The upshot? We're watching an entire generation approach wine differently, drinking less frequently, spending more per bottle, prioritizing special occasions over weeknight dinners, and caring deeply about ingredients, sustainability, and transparency. It's not the death of wine. It's wine growing up with a new generation that has completely different values, and the smart producers are already adapting. Globally, the season's big style trends are slightly sweet or off-dry options of the table. Think late harvest Riesling with cheesecake or Tokai with blue cheese, helped along by the calendar. December 10th is World Azu Tokai Day, celebrating Hungary's iconic botrytized wine, sweet wine made from noble rot-affected grapes with flavors of dried apricot, honey, and citrus. It is a gorgeous wine. In its honor, line up a dessert-first dinner where every course gets sweeter wine but smaller pours, and test the old claim that Tokai was the wine of kings and the king of wines. Celebrate also by hosting a dessert pairing night. Match it with foie gras, blue cheese, or dark chocolate torte, or simply a sweet wine study where you blind taste Tokai against ice wine, Sauterne, and late harvest Riesling to explore how different regions handle sweetness and how your taste buds handle them. From Buds to Suds, National Lager Day is also December 10th, so you could serve a lager and cheddar pairing before dessert, or try a blind tasting of local craft lagers against the big brands. December 14th is National Screwdriver Day. That's the drink, not the tool. They'll have too many of them and you'll be a tool. A food blogger went viral this week describing the screwdriver cocktail as, quote, vodka crashing into a citrus grove like a drunk driver, unquote, which perhaps is the most aggressive tasting note I've ever read. In the Department of Things We Shouldn't Eat, December 11th is National Noodle Ring Day, a mid-century culinary horror involving pasta baked in a bundt pan. I challenge anyone to find a wine pairing that can save that dish. December 12th is Gingerbread House Day. Skip the milk and pair that spicy ginger with an off-dry Alsatian Gewürztraminer. December 13th is National Cocoa Day, tailor-made for red wine, hot chocolate, or a mug of cocoa with a splash of tawny port. December 14th is National Roast Chestnuts Day, the ultimate excuse to decant a tannic Nebbiolo or Barolo as those proteins love chestnuts. December 15th, National Cupcake Day, begging for cupcake and demi-sec, slightly sweet sparkling wine. And December 16th is National Chocolate-Covered Anything Day. Do not fail this assignment. Open a bottle of Morey or Banyuls, the French Grenache-based fortified wines. They are arguably one of the only and true matches for chocolate. The 16th of December is also Pinot Meunier Day, shining a light on Champagne's often overlooked workhorse grape. Mark the day with a blind bubbles flight. Pour 3 sparkling wines, 1 Meunier heavy, 1 classic Chardonnay lead, and a Canadian or English bubbly. Cover the labels and let friends guess which has more berry fruit or softer, rounder edge. Whoever guesses correctly has to host the next tasting. This is also a perfect excuse to seek out single varietal Pinot Meunier bubbles and taste how its bright fruitiness and soft acidity stand on their own. Big beverage players are using new product launches to grab gifting attention, including a grapefruit-flavored gin in Europe, to cocktail-style, ready-to-drink claw tails, and elf themes, with bright mixology-inspired flavors and slightly higher-octaned canned drinks. are currently stocking stuffer catnip. Over in Porto, one restaurant cocktail list is turning port into a mashup of tea time and a nightcap, with tawny port shaken with rum, Earl Grey tea, pomegranate, hazelnut, and spice. So if your Christmas wish is a drink that tastes like your favorite movie, breakfast pastry, or beach holiday, somebody probably has already bottled it and put a bow on top. If you have some wine news or a quirky story you think I should share on the podcast, email me at natalie@nataliemclean.com. On Instagram, I'm at Natalie McLean Wine, where I'm sharing lots of wine pics and other things. This week on CTV's Your Morning, we chatted about the fact that the holidays are here, which means it's time to elevate your entertaining game. Whether you're hosting a festive gathering or bringing a dish to share, one pairing that never fails to impress: wine and cheese. But with so many options, how do you create combinations that will truly wow your guests? Well, I'm here to help. The beautiful thing about wine and cheese is that even mistakes taste great. Like, oh no, I accidentally paired a creamy cheese with sparkling wine and now I'm having the best Tuesday of my life. So we're starting with a Canadian combo that brings both heat and sparkle to your holiday table. Bothwell Cheese from Manitoba has just launched a stunning new spicy dill pickle cheese that features bright dill with pickled jalapenos, delivering a mild kick that wakes up your palate without overwhelming it. This cheese is tangy and creamy and has that addictive pickle-forward flavor with just enough heat to keep things interesting. Bothwell has been making award-winning cheeses for 90 years in New Bothwell, Manitoba. They're farmer-owned, using 100% Canadian milk with no artificial flavors or colors. These are the people who wake up at 4 a.m. because cows do not understand the concept of sleeping in. #respect. Now here's where the magic happens. Feel free to try it with the Chill Street Starry Nights flavored cider. This cider is made from Niagara apples, blackberries, and Vidal grapes infused with mango flavor, creating something truly special. The aromas reveal notes of blackberry and pear, while juicy flavors of mango, apricot, and peach burst across your palate. This unique blend is wonderfully fruity, yet finishes dry, making it incredibly versatile with food. The pairing with the cheese works because the cider's stone fruit flavors complement the cheese's tangy pickle flavor, while that dry finish prevents the combination from becoming cloying, and the blackberry notes add a berry dimension that bridges the sweet and savory. It's sophisticated enough for a dinner party, but fun enough that it would definitely watch reality TV with you on the couch. My pairing tip to help you remember: soft and mild loves fruity and wild. I should note that all the drinks we're tasting today are in the LCBO. The cheeses are in local grocery stores. Next, we're moving into classic comfort territory with Black River Maple Cheddar. This is for when you want to be fancy, but also want to be wearing your softest yoga pants emotionally. This Ontario cheese made from Madoc has been crafted over 100 years, and they've infused their medium-aged cheddar with pure maple syrup from Prince Edward County. Could this get any more Canadian? I think not. The result is a beautiful balance of sharp cheddar tang folded in the gentle caramel sweetness. It is a flavor profile that feels like a hug from a lumberjack who uses high-quality moisturizer. This cheese has big, cozy energy. Now try it with Yellowtail Chardonnay from Australia that has a fresh new label for your holiday table. This Chardonnay is approachable and fruit-forward with generous tropical fruit notes of ripe peach and pineapple, vanilla and toasted oak. It's smooth and creamy and feels luxurious without being heavy. It's the perfect crowd pleaser with enough richness to stand up to the cheese. And the pairing works because the wine's tropical fruit mirrors the maple's natural sweetness, while its creamy texture matches the cheese's richness, and those subtle vanilla notes create a bridge between the maple and the oak aging. My pairing tip to help you remember: fruit and savor gives you lots of flavor. Time to turn up the heat. Bothwell Red Hot Chili Pepper cheese brings medium-level spice that builds gradually, without overwhelming, creating that addictive warmth that keeps you coming back. The cheese itself is smooth and creamy, letting the chili peppers be the star of the show. It's like when you wear a simple black dress so that your statement earrings can shine, except this time the earrings are the jalapenos and the dress is dairy. And somehow, it works better than that metaphor just did. Now try it with Inniskillen Late Autumn Riesling. This iconic Inniskillen wine is beautifully aromatic with vibrant green apple leading the charge, followed by bright citrus and refreshing lemon-lime notes that dance on your palate. A touch of residual sugar provides a wonderful length and balance, while the crisp natural acidity keeps everything fresh and lively. Inniskillen was Canada's first estate winery, awarded a license after Prohibition, and has helped define the Canadian wine landscape on the world stage. They convinced the world that Canada makes more than ice wine and apologies, and for that, we're eternally grateful, not sorry. My pairing tip to help you remember: sweet meets heat. The wine's residual sugar literally tames the chili heat, while the acidity refreshes your palate. And those citrus notes provide a cooling counterpoint that makes the spice feel balanced rather than burning. It's the relationship dynamic we all strive for, one that is spicy and dramatic, and the other that is sweet and calms everyone down. Now we're moving into something unique. Black River Honey Cheddar combines their medium-aged cheddar with pure Canadian honey, creating a cheese that's both sophisticated and comforting with genuine honey sweetness. Feel free to try it with the warm and cozy mulled wine from Ontario grapes, made at Sprucewood Shores, a family-owned and operated winery. I have the regular size that's in the LCBO and the Very Merry Party size that's in Costco. It's a magnum size, so 1.5 liters. This ready-to-heat mulled wine is like wrapping yourself in a cashmere blanket while watching the snowfall through a frosty window pane. It's warming, and yet it only has 8.5% alcohol. The nose opens with a rush of bright orange peel and warming cinnamon that mingles with the deeper notes of clove and freshly grated nutmeg that instantly transports you to a Christmas market. It's traditional to make a wish while stirring it clockwise as it simmers on the stove, making the entire house smell like Christmas. Stirring counterclockwise is thought to bring bad luck. But if you can't wait, because Miracle on 34th Street is starting, you can also pour it into a mug and microwave it. It's ready to drink when you see wisps of steam appear. Do not boil that wine. This pairing works together because the wine's warming spices complement the honey's natural sweetness, while those orange notes brighten the rich cheddar, and comforting warmth creates cozy harmony with the cheese's creamy texture. Both of these homegrown products are in Ontario, and they share similar soils and climate. My pairing tip to help you remember: what grows together goes together. And now we're finishing bold. The Bothwell Habanero with cracked black pepper brings serious heat for those who love adventure on their cheese board. We're ending on a high note, or a hot note. This is hot level spice, where the habanero provides fruity heat, while the cracked black pepper adds aromatic sharpness and visual appeal. Now try it with Small Gully Wines, the Formula Robert Shiraz from Australia. This is boutique hands-on winemaking at its finest, with a father and son team who focused on small batch ferments and gentle handling to preserve depth and character. They're harvesting grapes from 60-year-old vines. Here's why the pairing works. The wine's bold fruit can stand up to the intense heat. Its alcohol provides a warming sensation that complements rather than fights the spice. And those peppery tannins actually echo the black pepper in the cheese, creating a harmonious spice bridge. It's big and bold and demands attention. My pairing tip to help you remember: bold with bold never gets old. At least that's what I tell myself when I wear plaid with polka dots. All right, and a final word of wisdom. Holiday cheese boards are like people. They're at their best when there's variety, a little sparkle, and nobody is pretending that the crackers are only for decoration. Choose cheeses that make you curious, wines that make you smile, and pairings that make your guests pause mid-sentence in a good way. All right, on Instagram, I'm at Natalie McLean Wine, and online, well, you know it, my website. Come for the wine recommendations and stay for the reassurance that you're not alone in your cheese obsession. Back to today's episode. 2 of you will win a copy of Simon Hardy's The Smart Traveler's Wine Guide to Switzerland. Congratulations to Keir Gillies from Scotland, who has won a copy of Sarah Jane Evans' book, The Wines of Spain. Debbie Donovan from Berwyn, Illinois, and Nisha Trivedi from San Francisco have both won a copy of Cha McCoy's Pairing for the People. I still have 1 copy left to give away. Sharon Lang from Toronto has won a copy of Elva Ramirez's book Sparkling with Cocktails. I still have 2 copies of that one to give away. So, if you'd like to win a copy of any of these books, email me, and let me know you'd like to win. Doesn't matter where you live. I'll choose 6 winners randomly from those who contact me at natalie@nataliemclean.com. Keep them for yourself or give them as gifts. In other bookish news, if you're reading the paperback or ebook or listening to the audiobook of my memoir, Wine Witch on Fire, Rising from the Ashes of Divorce, Defamation, and Drinking Too Much, a national bestseller and one of Amazon's best books of the year, I'd love to hear from you at natalie@nataliemclean.com. It has a little holiday theme going on throughout the book, so, despite that, Scrooge-like title, it's got a little Charles Dickens finish to it. There's a happy ending. Anyway, I'll put a link in the show notes to all retailers worldwide at nataliemclean.com/367. Okay, on with the show. So we're talking about vertiginous vineyards, altitudinous vineyards. You described the Valais vineyards with slopes that can be vertiginously steep, as much as 90% in places. That sounds like you're going to just fall right off. Can you paint a picture of what that actually looks like and how they would even harvest grapes? Or do they just roll down, try to grab the can on the roll down? What's going on there?
If you're not careful, you will slip.
Yes.
And if you slip in the wrong place, you'll die.
Oh my, really? So it is serious.
I know of at least one grower who met that fate.
Oh dear.
And you have to think about these vineyards because we're so used to seeing splendid vineyards, row upon row of vines in rather large plots. In Switzerland, sometimes the plot can be a couple of rows of vines with a stone wall above and a stone wall below. And you're thinking, how does anybody get there? I mean, even you're thinking, why did they plant there?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll come back to why some of the vineyards are where they are, but it's a dangerous business. There is this terminology within the kind of the mountain growing areas of wine regions, not just in Switzerland, of heroic viticulture, which in Italian I love it, viticultura eroica. You've got to want to do it. This is a labor of love. How do they get the grapes down? Which was part of the question that I heard. Partly in some areas, they use helicopters.
You're kidding me. They pick from a helicopter?
No,
that's got to be expensive.
Well, yes and no. These are the helicopters, generally the helicopters that do all the mountain rescue during winter. Well, during the harvest time in September, October, they're not that busy. So this is a good activity and alternative or complementary source of income. And because so many of the vineyard plots are pretty inaccessible, you don't want to be spending your time having to figure out how to get your crate or your basket of grapes, back down to the valley floor. If somebody can actually just hover and pick up your crates and take them down, great. Because obviously you want to get the grapes to the crush as fresh as possible. But the other thing you'll see in a lot of the Valais and in the Lavaux region, you'll see kind of little funicular railways, like single track railways.
Okay.
I mean, there's a guy literally riding on a driver unit, and he's pulling platforms with crates of grapes on the back, up and down.
Wow. So you alluded to this, but why on earth would someone plant on the side of a cliff between two stone walls? Why would you plant grapes there? Were you trying to hide them, or what's going on?
I don't want to cast aspersions. The Swiss are very honest people. I think historically some of it goes back to the self-sufficiency of Switzerland, where long before the European Union existed, not that Switzerland is a member, but it does have a deal with the European Union, which has really opened up the market somewhat and has changed things. But going back historically, you would have families who are living off the land. Today, we tend to think of Switzerland, it's the land of collectible watches, it's the land of banks, it's the land of wealthy celebrities. Go back before the Second World War and further back into time, we're talking about a very rural, agricultural country where people are farming, they're living off the land, and they're being very smart. When you're living in a country where 70% of the land is covered by mountains, 70%, you do what you can with the remaining 30%. Now, some of that is covered, obviously, with towns, villages, and now cities, large agglomerations. So what's left, you've got to make it work for you. You've absolutely got to make, and surprise, surprise, we're in Switzerland, so some of it is occupied by cows. Switzerland does have a bit of a reputation for milk production, which a lot of it goes into their lovely chocolate, a lot of it goes into their lovely cheeses. So in the end, where can I plant my vines? And if you know you're in a wine, you know that you can plant vines, you know you can produce quality grapes, or you can produce grapes. Maybe we'll come on to the quality as a more recent story. But you're going to work it. And the reason many of the vines still exist where they do is because they've been passed down through the family.
Right.
It's the family inheritance. So you might think, oh, come on, Natalie, why don't you just sell up? No. My grandfather would turn in his grave, not to mention my great-grandfather. It may well be that you have a day job and you farm the vines in your spare time. It may be that you actually employ a specialist to do that. And then you'll be selling your grapes either by contract to a larger producer or to one of the local winemakers. But so wine is totally wrapped up in the fabric of this country. That's what's so remarkable.
You alluded to this. Has there been a quality revolution? Like other countries have experienced that? Has something remarkable happened in the last 5-10 years with Swiss wine?
I would say it goes back, actually. The wake-up call, I think, was in the 1980s when Switzerland did a deal with the European Union, which opened up the European Union to Swiss goods and vice versa. And the quality was not competitive. It was not good enough, as it were. It was not competitive enough. And there was also overproduction. So there was a conscious shift away from volume and quantity towards quality and making better wine. And clearly, while I give the sense that, it happened overnight, of course, it doesn't. Yeah, you have to let that work its way through over several vintages and arguably even from one generation to the succeeding generation. But I'd say where we are now is the vineyards have shrunk through the course of the 20th century and into the 21st. They're now relatively stable, at least for now. But I would say the output is consistently better overall, particularly at what I call the fine wine level of the market.
Here's something really interesting that you talk about. The concept of the three suns in the Lavaux region is beautifully described. Direct sunlight, the reflection off the lake, and heat absorbed by stone walls. This is very poetic, but how does it actually help and manifest in the glass when you taste the wine?
It's allowing the vines to benefit from this three-dimensional sun. So it's like it's in a very natural way, through no kind of, I'd say through limited human intervention, the vines are benefiting from certainly extended heat, and, if you like, stronger sun. I mean, if you think when you go skiing, which I'm sure you do occasionally, if you're not wearing sunblock, be careful, because that sun, you know what it's doing, bouncing off the snow. Well, imagine that same effect, the sun bouncing off the lake. Yeah? The human intervention element, though, are the stone walls, because clearly these are man-made, and these are the walls that were originally built, as I said, back in the 11th century by the monks. They take a lot of effort to maintain, because as you know, any mountainside just naturally wants to keep slipping down. So, and that puts a lot of pressure on these walls, so they need a lot of maintaining. But they are soaking up the warmth of the sun. So it's like when the sun sets, and you'll notice the temperature will drop a couple of degrees. You feel it. You have to put on a jumper, or depending on the time of year, or thicker coat. But these walls are radiating the heat. Yeah, so you have a radiator effect.
They're like hot water bottles. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just being as generous as possible to largely the Chasselas grape that grows in that particular stretch of vineyards.
Okay, I love that. Let's jump back into history. The book reveals that in the year 1814, Charlemagne owned vineyards near Orbe, commemorated today as the 1814 wine, or sorry, the 814 wines.
840. I was going to
I
say
know,
840. Yeah,
so
yeah,
modern,
yeah.
modern slip there, of Chateau de Queple. Oh no,
Declipant. Yeah.
thank you.
That's
What
okay.
other surprising historical figures have made their mark on Swiss wine regions?
I don't know. I'm going to surprise you with the answer, which is the Dalai Lama.
Really? That is surprising.
Now, has he made a mark on the Swiss wine industry? He does. He certainly has in terms of wine tourism. The smallest vineyard in the world, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this, is in the village of Farinay in the Valais. And so Les Vignes de Farinay, it's something like it's unbelievably small. I mean, it's like a row of vines. I think it's like even 8 vines. But since I think it's towards the end of the 20th century, 69, 89, they belong to the Dalai Lama. I don't know how he got his hands on them, whether it was a gift, but they are part of his assets. And the vines are farmed, and they produce a small quantity of wine. And
does he drink?
They are an absolute magnet for not just for the average tourist, but for celebrity tourists. I mean, they're absolutely blown away by this whole kind of the cuteness of it all, and as I say, the kind of the Tibetan Buddhist dimension.
Very sort of like those. Does he drink wine? Do you know? Off topic.
Question.
But I don't know.
That's a good question.
Anyway.
I know that there's a president south of your border that doesn't drink alcohol, but I don't know.
He's not the Dalai Lama, though. So you talk about the Benedictine and Cistercian monks in the 11th century, cleared forests, sculpted terraces, and planted vineyards supported by miles and miles of stone wall. Okay, we did cover that. Yeah, that must be something to see the stone walls stretch on and on and on. Now, we alluded to this earlier. You describe completer as first documented in 1321. Its name derived from completatorium, which sounds like a place where perfectionists go to work out their problems. The Benedictine monks' final prayer service, during which, I'm quoting you, the monks were allowed a glass of wine to be sipped in silence. What does this 700-year-old variety taste like, and why was it nearly lost?
I love it. It's a personal favorite. I figured we might end up talking about it again. So it's called, so we're in German here, so you have to kind of switch on your German mind. So it's written as completer with an R on the end. Completer. Completer is the name of the grape.
Contemplative?
Kind of. But completor and completorium was the service. The completorium we call compline. It's like it's the last prayer of the day.
Oh, to complete, yeah.
So the grape itself, it's planted today in 9-10 hectares, maybe 12 in Switzerland. It's still pretty small. Mainly in the east of Switzerland, which is where it seems to have originated. It is being trialed in some other regions, in the Valais, for example. And I noticed even in Geneva, they've started to plant it. So there's a lot of interest in it. But why did it nearly die out? It's because it's a pig of a variety. It's very, very hard. It's a pig of a variety in the sense it's very, very hard to grow. It's the yields fluctuate wildly. It's it's off the charts in acidity, absolutely off the charts. In fact, the acidity is so high, one grower was telling me it's the only vines that they don't have to cover with netting to protect from the birds. Because even the birds,
they even turn their beaks up at that. Wow, okay.
Smart birds. But what does it taste like? Throughout its life, this acidity is full on. When it's young, it's quite arresting, to say the least. It takes to oak barrel really nicely, and you have this this voluptuous, this very round. It's dry, but very round, very rich, minerally. I don't know, yellow fruits. It's just unlike anything, I guess. And again, it's hard to drink Completa without knowing that you're drinking Completa. So there's this psychological sense of, this is so rare, this is so unusual, and most of the people in the room have never come across it before. It gives you a bit of a thrill. It's unbelievably age-worthy, 40, 50 years. I mean, I'd love to say that I've drunk one that old, but no problem at all, thanks to that acidity. But 12 hectares, it's hard to find even in Switzerland. But I know, well, if you give me a call, I've got a few bottles here. But
okay.
Yeah, it's
worth
not I'd say there's a better chance in restaurants. In retail stores, it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Sounds like
it's
a rare
enjoying
treat.
a mini revival, but it's on a Swiss scale.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. So
I can see I've taken your breath away with
yeah,
with
absolutely. Completely.
Completely.
So let us jump to, I found this interesting. So there are 3 lakes. The rosé wine, Œil de Perdrix, the Eye of the Partridge, which is a term rosé wines. Right, the Eye of the Partridge. What is that supposed to be? Dark, light pink? Is that what the eye of a partridge is? Light pink in the center of the eye?
Again, I'm not sure I can spare your sensibilities or those of your viewers on this one. I'm told that it is the color of the eye of the partridge when it's been freshly shot.
I see. Yes. All right.
So, gosh, I mean, without wanting to resort to the color chart of rosé wines, but first of all, it's 100% Pinot Noir rosé, which I would say is not that common a kind of varietal for rosé. So you know that it's not going to be particularly rich in color because Pinot Noir, even in its red manifestation, is quite light in color. But you do get a kind of there's a salmony pink element to it. If I had to put my money on it, I'd say salmon pink. The big deal in Neuchâtel, and so you mentioned 3 lakes. Clearly, there's many, many more lakes in Switzerland, but the smallest wine region of Switzerland is called the 3 Lakes. So Les Trois Lacs, and in German, Drei Seen. And it's built around formed by the Lake of Neuchâtel, which is the largest of the 3, and 2 small lakes. The Lac de Bienne, which is also known in German as the Bielersee, and the Lac de Morat, which is also known as Murtensee. The reason I give you French and German is because you're right on the language line here, which is called the Röstigraben, which we might come on to in a moment. But Neuchâtel, they came up with this concept, this name, you probably would call it a brand name, Œil de Perdrix.
Œil de Perdrix.
And Œil de Perdrix, and Eye of the Partridge. And I'm not too sure whether they made attempts to protect it from a trademark and an intellectual property point of view. Suffice to say that other regions of Switzerland, and I believe even outside Switzerland, the term which was found to be charming and distinctive and memorable started to be used. And by the time Neuchâtel realized that they had, or they should be protecting the name, it was too late.
It was gone. Like Kleenex and tissues. Oh well. Yes, you mentioned this. The Röstigraben divides French and German speakers, and it runs through the region. Is this just the language difference, or it's a cultural fault line too, isn't it? And tasting wines from either side, are they very different?
Other than the differences between the wine regions, but I think the greater significance of it is it's totally imaginary.
Oh,
so there's not a line, there's not a ditch, there's not a bridge you have to cross. So Graben in German is ditch, and Rösti is the popular Swiss German grated potato pan-fried dish. Yeah. So you kind of get this crispy coating on the outside and this kind of soft, kind of oily cooked potato on the inside. It's very much linguistic for sure, French on one side, well, I say German on the other, Germanic. So there's a lot of Swiss German dialects, but it's obviously rooted in German. Culturally, for sure, and you see this, even a simplistic example would be in voting patterns in Switzerland. So when you actually look at issues that are being voted on, very often the French-speaking cantons to the south of the Röstigraben will vote one way on an issue, and the German-speaking cantons to the north of the Röstigraben will vote the other way. What you will see, that what will make it obvious that you're traveling from one zone, as it were, to the other, is you see a lot of dual language road signs, traffic signs.
Right.
And even though the Swiss is, it's a law-abiding, it's a very correct population, but it won't stop some probably younger members of the locality graffitiing the signs by spray painting the language that they don't want you to see. Sometimes it's the French they spray out, sometimes it's the German. So it's an intense rivalry.
It's a multicultural.
But I don't think it's reflected in what's in the glass per se, other than clearly there are cultural influences which the winemaker will be respecting, but I don't think.
Sure. So let's talk about visiting. I know this was not your half of the book, but if someone wants to plan a trip to Swiss wine regions, would you say they should start at Lake Geneva and the Lavaux region? I mean, where should we begin if we want to visit Switzerland for wine?
The first place there's different places you could start, and it's driven by what's the easiest place to get to in Switzerland from outside the country. And I would say look to the international airports. Switzerland has lots of them. The principal ones there are Geneva, lots of international connections. I think there's at least one daily flight to Washington, D.C., if I'm not mistaken, and Zurich, big time, even bigger than Geneva Airport. And that will give you access to very different parts of the country. We've tried to cover this in the book. We have 8 different wine routes in the book.
Okay.
We cover all of the 6 regions, and we try to be true to something that actually Switzerland's immensely proud of as a tourist destination, which is it's very accessible, whether you're walking, whether you're biking, cycling or e-biking, whether you're driving or taking the train and public transport, boats, funiculars and what have you. So we've designed the 8 routes around, well, 2 of them are for walking, 2 for biking, 2 for cars, 2 for trains. You can mix and match to some extent. I would say if time is limited, and this is really unfair because in the book we've tried to be very equitable and fair to all of the regions. The region that probably has the most compelling Swiss wine story is Valais, for the simple reason that that's where it does rank as the number one region in terms of production, but that's also where you'll get the most satisfaction from this incredible array of indigenous varieties, easy peasy, white and red. As well as it's majestic, you get a sense that you're in this alpine region because you've got the mountain slopes either side. So you're getting kind of Switzerland full on in one visit. But with more time, I really would encourage people at least to visit the area around Lake Geneva, not just the Lavaux region. The Lavaux region tends to get the lion's share of attention because of these incredible slopes and the way the vines just seem to be clinging to these slopes. But the other parts of the region are equally attractive and arguably maybe easier to get around because they're not so steep. But I wouldn't take anything away if you land in Zurich and you only have time for one trip. We've put in one itinerary that takes you up to Schaffhausen, up to the Rhine Falls, and some fabulous producers of Pinot Noir in the Schaffhausen region. But then you can also drop down into the Zurich region and also have more Pinot Noir. You can have Riesling, which is another Swiss grape. I think it's largely now only in Switzerland. It used to be up in Germany as well. Again, nearly died out. It's a white grape, and it's pretty much thanks to one producer that it's still going, and it's now being picked up by more. We have to thank Alan Schwarzenbach for that. Yeah.
I'll leave it to you to say his name as well. Now, I do want to touch on cheese and chocolate before we
Yeah.
run out of time, because you note that Chef Eddie at the Raclette House set a world record in 2025 this year for hosting the largest raclette event, melting cheese, fondue, I guess, uniting 5,000 cheese lovers in one molten celebration. What wine did they serve, and what did that look like? Did everybody have pots of melting cheese, or what was going on there?
I honestly don't know the answer, but I'm 99% sure that it would have been a fondant from the Valais. A fondant being the Valais name for the Chasselas grape variety. I would have been shocked if it was anything else.
Sure.
But even I should say, even though that was a kind of, that's been and gone, that was an amazing one-off event, and lucky to those 5,000 that were there. But in the book, we do feature one other, actually in the wine bar section, the Chateau de Villa up above Sierre, the town of Sierre, or the city of Sierre in Valais. And I had the chance to enjoy this recently. They have a raclette menu where you get 5 different raclettes.
Raclette,
5 different raclette
cheeses?
cheese.
Okay.
So raclette is the appellation for this particular Valaisan cheese that you melt.
Okay.
And you might just think, okay, what's the big deal? It's raclette cheese. You melt it, and you can have it over potatoes or on its own or whatever. Raclette is raclette. Every herd is different. Every valley is different. And this particular restaurant will tell you which farm the raclette cheese is coming from, and whether the cows actually spent the summer months in the high Alps or lower down closer to the valley.
Because that'll affect the taste of the milk and the cheese.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a lot smoother from the high Alps. And differences between the valleys and differences between the herbs.
Sounds like herds.
Wine. Because, exactly like wine. Because think about it, the cows, they're eating whatever's there. And each pasture has different alpine flowers. That's what gives the cheese its flavor. It's just fabulous.
Fascinating. I love that. And what about chocolate? Do you go into chocolate much in this book? Because chocolate's famous too.
My co-author Mark will be happy that I'm saying this. He wrote He wrote a feature on chocolate. We couldn't get it in the book. We were squeezed out by our 208-page limit, which the publisher insisted we did not go over. So Mark would love to find an outlet for his chocolate chapter, because it does go into what's the big deal with Swiss chocolate? Why is it? Well, sorry to break the news, guys, but it was invented. Milk chocolate was invented in Switzerland.
In Switzerland, I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the guys who was involved in that early development was Henri Nestlé of Nestlé. He wasn't actually the guy. There were some other guys, a guy called Caillet, a guy called Peter, a guy called Kohler. And in the end, they all started buying each other out and getting together. And then Nestlé ended up with all of these brands. And one of them is still one of the leading brands of Swiss chocolate in Switzerland. It's my kid's favorite, called Caillet. That's Cailler. Fabulous stuff.
Oh, and do any Swiss wines work with this chocolate? Because the Swiss wines are so light.
I think milk chocolate I find quite difficult. Darker chocolate for sure. I don't think there's any debate. And we're talking kind of 70% cocoa solids and higher. I think it goes very well with Syrah in particular. And that won't come as a big surprise. I'm sure you've had Syrah from elsewhere with dark chocolate, quite yummy. But there are also, I've never seen them outside the country, well, not much outside Switzerland, but some really fine dessert wines, especially from the Valais region. There's a little pocket just where the Rhone River kind of does a dog leg in it. So it's a bit of a temperature zone where in the autumn you have what you would expect in a fabulous sweet wine producing area, which is the morning mists. And as a result, you have everything you'd expect. Botrytis on the grapes to produce fabulous sweet wines.
Well, one of my favorite drugstore, grocery store chocolate is Toblerone. And are those spikes? Those are meant to be the Alps, aren't they? Or are they?
Yes, they are. So Tobler was the Swiss manufacturer, And Toblerone was the product that they created. And it was inspired supposedly by the Matterhorn, which is why the Matterhorn used to be part of, it was the symbol that appeared on the packaging until, because Toblerone was, I think it was it got bought out in the end by, I think it was Mondelez, so as in Cadbury chocolate. And at some point, a decision was made to produce Toblerone outside Switzerland. And at that point, Switzerland required them to remove the silhouette of the Matterhorn from the packaging. The word is, I think it's returning to Swiss production. So you might see the Matterhorn returning. But yeah.
So pleased to hear that. So what do you think is the future for Swiss wines? What are you optimistic about? What are you worried about when it comes to Swiss wines?
Gosh, as somebody now living outside Switzerland and keen to get my hands on more, but also help more people discover Swiss wines, in a strange way, I would like the Swiss to stop hogging it all for themselves. I would like them to drink a little bit less of their own wine. This might have been a bit of a pipe dream until recently. Switzerland is having to deal with what we're seeing in many other markets, which is a decline in, or a reset of alcohol consumption, and that's impacting on wine consumption. And from what I'm picking up, this is becoming an issue in Switzerland too. So one of the ways out, particularly given that they export less than 2%, is to rethink their export strategy. And I do believe that is what's happening. Now, is there a goal? In a way, it doesn't matter. But even if they go from 2% to 5%, that's a 150% increase. That's a massive shift in behavior, shift in commercial behavior, shift in mindset. I'm organizing an event here in London in November called Swiss Wine Week London. There's some producers participating in that who do not have English on their websites. So they're kind of putting a toe in the water for potential export opportunity, but they're not making it easy. That has to change. So I think there is an opportunity for exports to grow. I don't think Switzerland suddenly will be appearing everywhere. I do not believe that Switzerland wines will necessarily be popping up in lots of retail stores either. I do believe that Switzerland should be focusing on bringing their better wines to the world. And when we're talking Swiss fine wines, we're talking restaurants, top tables, and with sommeliers who know about Switzerland and are ready to introduce it to their guests and can serve it by the glass. I doubt people are going to jump to a bottle of Cornelin. What is that? I've never heard of it before. Yeah, should I take the chance? But I think the other thing that will change, and maybe this book will play its little part in that, is the growth of wine tourism. Tourism in Switzerland, nothing new at all. I mean, arguably, it's the place that invented mass tourism, thanks to Thomas Cook back in the 19th century.
Thomas Cook Travel. That's a travel agency.
That's right. Thomas Cook. His first trip ever was to Switzerland.
Huh. All right.
I should just say he was a teetotaler, but we'll just leave it there.
Oh, well.
but I think wine, so Switzerland needs no introduction when it comes to tourism. Wine tourism, however, is relatively underdeveloped. In the Lavaux area on Lake Geneva, that's probably the most developed. But we've tried in our book, to be fair, there are some really good tourism experiences in all of the regions. And we would expect to see more of that developing. And that's certainly where the industry leaders want to take it.
Wow. Time has flown, Simon. Before we wrap up, is there anything you wanted to mention that we haven't covered?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure people will be thinking, we've probably talked about 10, maximum 12 varieties. What are these other 230 plus? Maybe we just have to do another session on Swiss grape varieties.
I think or an 8-part series, it sounds like.
The doctor whose name you were struggling with earlier, who actually co-wrote the Wine Grapes book with Jancis Robinson and Julia Harding. I mean, he is the DNA grape geneticist expert in the world. He happens to be a Swiss from the Valais. But he's also written a really good book on Swiss grape varieties. It's available on Amazon, if I'm allowed to say that. It's a really well-written book. It's easy to read. And it will tell you everything you really need to know, much more than we can put in our wine travel guide.
Sure.
But I think that is one of the delights of Switzerland. Every country has to position itself somewhere in the world of wine. So what is Switzerland's calling card? It's native varieties, it's alpine freshness, and it's very food-friendly, kind of family, small-scale, artisanal wine. Really great stories to tell.
And you tell them so well in this book. So where can we find you and this book online, Simon?
Well, my publisher will be urging me to say go to their shop, which is the Académie du Vin Library site. It will come up. Google finds it easily enough. They do have a shop, and they do ship anywhere on planet Earth, as far as I know. It is also available on Amazon, and they have been shipping, as I understand, since the start of October. If the wholesaler is doing his job in Canada, in the US, I've seen it on, I don't know whether Barnes & Noble goes north of the border, but it's certainly on the Barnes & Noble.
We have Chapters Indigo. Yeah.
Okay. I've seen it on I haven't
there.
checked their website. It's on Barnes & Noble website. Simon & Schuster got it. So it seems to be popping up on your regular online bookstore. There's a pretty good chance you'll find it. If not, write to me.
Of
It's
course.
very easy.
I'll put them in touch with you.
Yeah.
Simon, this has been an absolute pleasure. This has been a wonderful education for me on Swiss wines. I didn't know much about them at all. So you've really given us a great overall picture and made me want to learn more and to taste more of Swiss wines.
Well, I hope we have the chance to do that together sometime.
Yes,
if you're ever in
that'd be
London,
great.
let me know, please.
I will, definitely. I'll say cheers for now. And till next time, Simon.
Thanks, Natalie. I've really enjoyed.
Okay, cheers. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Simon. Here are my takeaways. Number 1, why are so many Swiss vineyards planted on dangerous terrain? As Simon explains, some of it goes back to the self-sufficiency of Switzerland, where long before the European Union existed, you'd have families who were living off the land. We tend to think of Switzerland as the land of collectible watches, banks, and wealthy celebrities. But before the Second World War, we're talking about a very rural, agricultural country. 70% of the land is covered by mountains, so what are you going to do with the remaining 30%? Some of that's covered in towns and villages, so what's left? Where can you plant those vines? Well, you're going to work that land and plant them in tiny crevices up mountainsides. You got to do what you got to do. Number 2, how did the 3 sons of Lavaux shape the ripeness and character of the wine Chasselas? As Simon says, it's allowing the vines to benefit from this 3-dimensional sun in a natural way. If you think about when you go skiing, if you're not wearing sunblock, you've got to be careful because the sun is bouncing off the snow. It's the same effect with the sun bouncing off the lake. And the stone walls, well, they absorb a lot of heat and then release it at night. So the vines are benefiting from all those heat sources. And number 3, which unexpected historical figure owns the world's smallest vineyard in Switzerland? Simon says it's the Dalai Lama, and it's in the village of Farina in the Valais. It's a row of only 8 vines. He doesn't know how the Dalai Lama got his hands on them, but they're part of his assets, and people now visit them because they want to see the Dalai Lama's vines. If you missed episode 41, go back and take a listen. I chat about traveling the wine world with Food Network star Kevin Broch. I'll share a short clip with you now to whet your appetite.
There's a lack of bravery around wine for people that don't know about wine. Just remember in the room, it was like, what does it taste like? And people are afraid to say cotton candy.
Right.
But we know that that's one of the culinary descriptors, or candy in and of itself. Earth, wet leaves, we know all of these things. People are afraid to say them for the first time. Yeah. And yet, once you do, you're so empowered. The wine tastes to you like the wine tastes to you. I can read the label. I can read what Robert Parker thinks of this wine. Mm-hmm. I can read what Billy Munnelly, who I adore and love, thinks of this wine. But at the end of the day, I'm only left with me. It's daunting. Nobody says that with beer. Like, guys don't drink beer and go, I get a little bit of the hops from the seashore by Seattle and the nose of dog hair.
You won't want to miss next week when we chat with Matt Walls, author of the terrific new book, The Smart Traveler's Wine Guide to the Rhone Valley. He'll join us from his home in Kent, England. If you like this episode or learned one thing from it, please email or tell a friend about the podcast this week, especially someone you know would be interested in learning more about the wines of Switzerland and planning a trip to the country. It's easy to find the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. Just tell them to search for that title or my name, Natalie McLean Wine, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or their favorite podcast app, or they can listen to the show on my website at nataliemclean.com/podcast. Email me if you have a sip, tip, question, or would like to win one of 7 copies of the books that I have to give away. And yes, I'll be giving away 2 copies of Matt's book, so if you want to get a jump on winning that one, email me now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode, or if you're reading my book at natalie@nataliemclean.com. In the show notes, you'll find a link to take a free online food and wine pairing class with me called The 5 Wine and Food Pairing Mistakes That Can Ruin Your Dinner and How to Fix Them Forever at nataliemclean.com/class. And that's all in the show notes at nataliemclean.com/367. Thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope something great is in your glass this week. Perhaps a Chasselas wine that pairs beautifully with cheese fondue. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So, subscribe for free now at nataliemclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.